When I joined back in 2002, I was one of the few people that had come from outside to join the company, and the company's changed massively since then, and that's probably what I've enjoyed most about it, to be honest. It's probably, if not then one of the most global companies in the world, and you get a chance to sort of have different careers and different experiences within the one company. I think you develop from the tough times that you have. It's much more developmental to, work on the big challenges. And certainly since I came into the role of CFO and went on the board back in 2015, we've had some pretty exciting times. We were the subject of a hostile takeover bid from Kraft. We went through a major group structure change because we had a very historic, almost 100-year-old structure of being a dual listed company. We wanted to modernize that. These are quite political. They were hard things to do. And then you continue to evolve the portfolio. We've done some big disposals. We've done some big acquisitions. Most recently, it was made public that we'd made an offer to acquire the consumer healthcare business of GSK. And that was, a little bit unfortunate that the way in which that came about and that was leaked. But if I look back on it, I've sort of come to associate a slight feeling of butterflies in my stomach around certain things as being tightly associated with learning and developing. And there's good stuff, but you learn as much from the things that don't go quite as well. I still believe passionately in sustainable business models. Much of the spotlight on these topics, that's the important role that NGOs play. It's challenging for politicians because of political dynamics, shorter terms, lots of chop and change. It's hard for politicians to chart a steady course of change. And business just has this sort of unique position in society where it's a constancy and there's a lot of resource, and therefore it can make change. A number of people have questioned whether business has a role in that model, or should we just stick to the sort of, Milton Friedman doctrine. But I think that would be a missed opportunity. Lots said these days about woke capitalism. That makes me bristle a wee bit, because Unilever is far from being a woke company. We think about our sustainable business model because we believe it's a winning business model. We believe over the long term that will create a more successful business and more value creation for all of our stakeholders. You got to remind yourself sometimes that shareholders, many shareholders are very interested in the long term, deeply interested in the long term success of a company, but there are other shareholders whose time horizons are not so long term, and that's just one of the challenges that board face. How do you balance out the shorter term interests and the longer term interests? Boards tend to be involved in the very largest decisions. The Unilever board had to consider a wide range of perspectives before making a very, very big decision, changing our fundamental historical corporate structure, getting to be a single entity with one share class. There were all sorts of listing considerations. There were a lot of considerations around national identity. Was Unilever traditionally an Anglo-Dutch company going to become more a Dutch company or more an Anglo company? Going through the balanced pros and cons of the choices there in what ultimately was always going to be a difficult thing to navigate in either country from a political perspective. And we did this all, at the same time as Brexit. A difficult time, and again, one where you benefit from your board's perspective, because when it comes to things like politics, consideration of sentiment within a country, within the press, within the company itself, within the supplier base, within our customer base, all of those things are the sort of questions and perspective and challenge and support that you get from your board, and it's very helpful to have that challenge. It's also very helpful when a board makes the decision. These were all quite bold moves. You feel once the board is unified and behind the change, you feel a certain degree of conviction and confidence that the change you're making, even though it's got some big consequences, is going to be difficult, that you've got the backing of your board. It's helpful. You always hope to have a divergence of views in the boardroom. It's not a test, the board is a unit and a team that is there to help the company be successful. So you're looking to form consensus relatively clearly around the biggest decisions. And a lot of that comes down to a question of how the board functions as a collective. A lot of it comes down to the quality of how the board is chaired, the order in which people contribute, etc. It becomes very important that the board has a certain feeling around it and feels a little bit like a team. It doesn't feel like a team like an executive team feels like a team, because you're not working together all the time. But you do need to have personal relationships and understand a little bit about what makes people tick in order to understand the perspectives that they might be bringing. But you certainly do want to have different perspectives being brought to bear in a constructive way. That's definitely what you're looking for.